selected as foreperson of the jury, please stand. And for the record, if you'd identify yourself. Mr. Rhodes, I'm going to ask you some questions. The appropriate response to each question would be either yes or no. Has the jury reached a unanimous verdict?
Yes.
Have you recorded that unanimous verdict by placing a check or an X mark space next to the appropriate verdict on the verdict sheet?
Yes.
Have you dated the verdict sheet?
Yes.
Did you sign it?
Yes.
Is it in the manila envelope you hold in your hand?
Yes.
You will give that to the sheriff. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, take the verdict, please.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, your foreperson has returned a verdict in file number 13-CRS-214536, the state of North Carolina versus Joanna Madonna. We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Joanna Madonna, to be guilty of first-degree murder. This, the 28th day of September, 2015. Is this your verdict? So say you all.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you all agree that that was your verdict, if you'll raise your hand. Instruction reflects that all 12 jurors raised their hands. Anything further with this jury for the state of North Carolina?
No, Your Honor.
Anything further with this jury for the...
Your Honor, I don't ask the jury to be all the Your Honor.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you're going to be asked individually about the verdict that your foreperson has returned. I'll start with the foreperson first, but you'll essentially be asked the following questions. Your foreperson has returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Then I will ask you, was this your verdict? And you will answer that question either yes or no. You'll then be asked the question, is this still your verdict? And you will answer that question either yes or no. If you do not understand the question I ask of you, let me know, and I'll be glad to repeat it. And again, any question I ask of you will be and can be answered either yes or no. Madam Clerk, call the roll of the jury, but call the name of the foreperson, Mr. Rhodes, first.
Mr. Rhodes, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Rhodes, as foreperson of the jury, you have returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Your foreperson returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be seated.
Ms. Anderson, if you would, please stand.
Your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be seated.
Mr. Greenspan, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Greenspan, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Ms. Brown, if you would, please stand.
Ms. Brown, your foreperson returned a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder in this case. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Ms. Robinson, if you would, please stand.
Ms. Robinson, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you. You may be seated.
Mr. Abney, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Abney, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Mr. Byers, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Byers, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Mr. Gray, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Gray, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Ms. Lewis Jenkins.
Ms. Lewis Jenkins, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict? Thank you, ma'am. You may be seated.
Mr. Jefferson, if you would, please stand.
Mr. Jefferson, your foreperson returned as a verdict of the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated.
Mr. Billard, If you would please stand.
Mr. Feller, your foreperson returned a verdict to the jury, a verdict of guilty of first-degree murder. Was this your verdict?
Yes.
Is this still your verdict?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. You may be seated. Anything further on behalf of the defendant?
Nothing at this point in time, Your Honor, except you heard perfect now.
State proceed, prayer to proceed to sentencing?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, I would simply ask you, in accordance with the law, to sentence this defendant to life in prison without parole.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, obviously we fully understand the statutory punishment for what the jury has convicted Ms. Madonna of. Just like to say for the record, you recognize the support that she has, and some of that support wasn't able to attend through a lot of this. Ms. Madonna has no criminal background whatsoever. She has overcome a lot, has a lot of support from a loving family, and will continue to do so. I would ask that I would respectfully enter notice of appeal at this point in time, and also, I'm sorry, and I would also ask you to consider any kind of educational or work opportunities that will be available to Ms. Madonna during her period of incarceration. I don't need to be heard any further.
Your Honor, Ms. Gant, the victim's daughter, would like to make a brief statement to the court, if she could.
Yes, ma'am.
Vanessa.
Do you object to me hearing her stand?
Yeah, I don't have an objection to that.
Yes, ma'am.
Nothing will bring my dad back. The time taken away from me, from my children. May God have mercy on you. This time for me. I just ask that you take into consideration.
Thank you. Ms. Madonna, is there anything you would like to say about that hearing?
I have nothing to say other than to thank the jury and thank Your Honor for taking so much time to consider my case.
The verdict of the jury is hereby accepted by this court is order recorded. Madam Clerk, the Madam State of North Carolina versus Joanna Madonna. Defendant appeared in open court was found guilty by a jury in 13 CRS 214536 of the offense of first-degree murder. It's in violation of General Statute 14-17. It is a felony class A. For the judge decreed the defendant be in prison for a term of her natural life without parole. She gives notice of appeals in North Carolina Court of Appeals, and I will appoint the appellate defender on her behalf. Is there any question for the sheriff? Ladies and gentlemen, this would conclude your jury services for this session of Superior Court here in Wake County and for the next 2 years. For your services, let me tell you first, my feelings about our criminal justice system, or jury system, are best summed up in a statement by G.K. Chesterton. He said that our civilization is decided, and very justly decided, that determining the guilt or innocence of men is a thing too important to be entrusted to trained men. When it wishes for light upon that awful matter, to ask men who know no more law than I know, but who can feel the things that I felt in the jury box. And wants a library catalog or the solar system discovery, any trifle of that kind, it uses up its specialists. But when it wishes anything done which is really serious, it collects 12 of the ordinary men standing around. The same thing was done, if I remember right, by the founder of Christianity. When we open court in this courtroom, we stand, and when we close court, we stand. You haven't been here, you've been in the room. But we stand in reverence and respect for justice as it's administered in the state of North Carolina. And that has been represented these past 2 weeks by your presence and your participation here in this courtroom. And for your presence and participation, I thank you. For your services, you're going to be paid the grand sum of $12 for the first day you were here. The next 4 days, you got $20. And then for the next 5 days, you got to raise to $40 a day. And I recognize that for most of you, that represents a financial sacrifice. But it's a small sacrifice for you to pay, for you to have the privilege of participating in our constitutional form of government and being a constitutional wife. Not only for Ms. Madonna, but for all of us here in North Carolina. For your services, I thank you. Because of your service here this week, you may not serve on another trial jury or grand jury of this state for the next 2 years. If your son is there, let that clerk know of your service here. You should not have to serve in a state court. If you need an excuse for your place of employment, they can provide that for you in the jury lounge downstairs. Any of you have any questions about our criminal civil justice system apart from the case that was just tried? If any of you have any comments about your jury service, and I won't mean how you were treated, whether we did some things right or we did some things wrong, you're the way that we know what we're doing. And I assure you that whatever you say will not make me angry. No one has any comments you want to make at all? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've told you repeatedly during this trial that you could not talk about this case with anyone else. You're now released from that. You may talk about this case with anyone in the whole wide world you want to. That would include the lawyers who are involved in this particular case. We practice law. We don't ever perfect it. You are the expert on being a jurist. And so it may be instructive to them if you tell them what they did right or wrong in this case as they practice their profession in the future. If somebody approaches you, one of the lawyers, and you don't want to talk to them, say, thank you so much, I don't want to talk to you. But however this case came out, they will respect you and what your position is. Any other questions or comments any of you have? Anything further for the record of the state?
I'd say I would simply like to thank the jury for their service.
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Sheriff, you may adjourn us. Signing.
All rise. Well, yes, yes, yes. This Honorable Superior Court for the County of Wake is now adjourned, sine die. God bless the state and this honorable court.